Today we're making sourdough calzones. This process takes about 8 hours to rise, so you make it 8 hours before you actually want to throw it in the oven. So we have 1.5 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/2 cup of active sourdough starter, and 4 cups of unenriched, unbleached white flour. This is what a starter looks like when it's active and ready to go. It's all bubbly, showing activity. That starter was completely still, smooth on top with no bubbles about 3 hours ago. It takes about 2 to 4 hours to get it to become active. I don't think anyone should be intimidated by sourdough. All it takes is following the directions and making sure you have the time and the patience. So first we'll add 1.5 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, this is a salt crock that I made after looking online and seeing that they were upwards of $15. So I just used an old minced garlic jar. So 1, 2. You don't want to get these totals off. So you do want to make sure you pay attention because you can ruin the dough if you don't measure it correctly. 1 cup or 1/2 cup of active sourdough starter. Almost 1/2 cup, so we'll put a little bit more in there. Okay, now the nice thing about a lot of the sourdough recipes that I've encountered is that unlike making cakes or other baked goods, you can use one bowl. You don't have to have one bowl for dry ingredients and one bowl for wet ingredients. Just add everything to one bowl and then mix together. It's nice. It makes for less mess. So there's 1. 2. 3. 4. Okay. Once you get it all in there, initially what I do is I use a silicone spatula to try to mix it all together so that the liquid is absorbed. And tomorrow I will be starting my 3rd batch of sourdough bagels. I have my first bagel customer, my sister. I'm going to start the dough tomorrow night when I get home from work. It's going to rise for about 12 hours. And then Tuesday morning, I'm going to shape it into bagels. And I'm going to let it rise for another 1 to 4 hours, and then I'll bake it. She has requested half everything bagels and half onion bagels. Okay, so once it's no longer liquidy, there's kind of no way around this unless you want to buy an expensive mixer. I have a mixer, but it's not very heavy duty, so I really don't trust it to knead dough. At least not as stiff as this dough is going to get. Especially bagel dough. Bagel dough is very dense. This, however, is calzone dough. So what I'll do, this is part 1. This is part 1 where we're making the dough. After it rises for at least 8 hours, I will walk you through the filling and the baking in my second video, so that you can see what the finished product looks like. Okay, so at this point, it's all nice and together in one ball. So I dump it on the counter. And this is where not having a stand mixer comes into play, which I'm a beginning sourdough baker, so I actually enjoy this part of it quite a bit. Plus, my regular job is an office job, so I figure any exercise I can get is good. So lightly floured surface, and you're supposed to knead it for about 10 minutes. I don't set a timer. I've made sourdough probably, I think I'm getting close to 10 times now, between my first time and now. I've made sourdough artisan loaves. I've made sandwich bread, sourdough sandwich bread once. I have made sourdough rolls twice, and that used the same recipe as the sandwich bread. I just put it into 12 muffin liners. So anytime it gets sticky until you're done, you need to give it some more flour. Not quite sure how much flour you end up using beyond the 4 cups, but it shouldn't be more than a quarter of a cup. Okay. Basically what I need, I fold it over and I press it into the counter. You really have to use your forearm muscles and your hand muscles for it. And eventually, you're going to notice that it becomes a smooth ball. Something about bread making just makes me really happy. I don't even personally eat a lot of bread or baked goods in general, but I really enjoy making them. I think it started during 2020 COVID lockdown. My first ever loaf of bread was a no yeast loaf of bread because I was intimidated by yeast. I didn't know how to use it. And actually it turned out really well. But I have to say, when I did start using yeast, it was a game changer. It was fluffier, end result, much closer to a fancy bread that you'd get in a store. I'm not talking about, the regular white bread that you feed your kids peanut butter and jelly on because they don't like anything else. I'm talking the fairly pricey artisan loaves. And I thought that yeast bread was a big difference until right around Christmas time, I decided to purchase a sourdough starter just to see if I could do it. So I heard that once you get it started, you can use the same starter for years and years. My favorite YouTuber, Lisa Bass from Farmhouse on Boone, I believe she says she's had the same starter for 10 years or more, and she just basically feeds it anytime she needs to use it. I learned, I'd say 90% of my sourdough bread skills from her. And that should be it. It's a nice smooth ball. And then what you do is you take the same bowl that you used to mix it, and you put a little olive oil in it, because this is where your dough is going to live, with a lid or plastic wrap on it for the next 8 hours in a warm place in your house. Not a hot place. You don't want to put it on top of your stove if you're using the oven for something else. I accidentally baked part of my starter doing that exact same thing. See, I'm not even washing the bowl. Just make sure it's got a nice generous coating of olive oil. You take it, pop it in, put the lid on, and this should just about double in size in 8 hours.